One, there's no slide decks here. It's purely a Q&A session, and we'll try to bring about industry insights from our panel of guest speakers. So you will not get bored by one speaker talking for 40 minutes and 50 minutes and slides. All of us are on video, so that's the other format. However, this format also demands that we keep our responses, our questions to a shorter format. So, except for the moderator who has the privilege of asking long, winding questions, all of us perhaps will have to deal with shorter responses. So, I would request my speakers when I start with questions in the questions round, I would request you to answer the question in a very single sentence format first, and then elaborate on the background of that answer. This will help me also to keep the time in check and make sure that we'll keep of the audience as a first priority. With that, let me invite my fellow speakers. We have 5 speakers currently online, and our 6th speaker, he'll be here shortly. And when he joins us, we'll request him to introduce himself. The format for this webinar is the following. After my initial introduction talk, setting the context, we'll have a round of introductions and opening remarks by each speaker. I request them to take about 2 to 3 minutes and tell us about their background, etc., a little bit about where they are currently, and also in their respective domain, what's the current status, how are they looking at this lockdown, and how it's impacting their particular domain. After that, I have a set of questions. After the first round of intros, I'll request a few questions to each of our speakers in no particular order, but there are about 9 questions I've gathered from online poll and going out to audiences on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And some of those questions are very, very deep, and some of those questions are more wider at the industry level. So I may not be able to do justice by pointing that question to only one person. I may start with one speaker, but I would request others to also chime in if they have a point of view. I must say, from brands perspective, we have 6 brands, 6+1 brands, if you include my moderator as a brand. But if you look at the totality of brands being represented on this panel today, we are 50 plus. Given the expertise and deep experience of each one of our speakers, it goes across realty, it goes across automotive sector, it goes across technology, FMCG, agencies, hotels, automotive companies. So we have a very wide variety of experiences to deep dive into. Of course, the context is retail, but in that context, we can leverage a lot of expertise available on this panel. We have folks who have worked at brands like Godrej, Jack and Jones, Vodafone, Infosys, Loda, Midday, Grape. So agencies, media companies, Saatchi and Saatchi, including me, Microsoft, Piramal, Arvind. So 50 plus brands are represented, and their expertise in terms of marketing is available to you here for your questions to be answered. For the audiences joining us, you can ask your questions at any time. We'll queue those questions, and my co-host for this panel, Arunima, she'll be queuing up those questions, and we'll take those questions at the end of the session, or if the time allows, I'll let the co-moderator take those questions during the session. We'll have ample time for your questions. We'll keep our questions and answers to a shorter duration. We'll have ample time for your Q&A. And with that, let me request my fellow speakers in alphabetical order, starting with Abhishek Shetty, then Abhinav. Akshay, I believe, is joining us later. Akshay Ambardar, Arpan Biswas, Jasmeet Thind, and then Sarika Grover. It's purely in alphabetical order. I'll request each one of you to take a few minutes to share with us about a little bit about your background, and then in that context, where exactly you are, and your opening remarks for this marketing in this era and MarTech in the COVID-19 post-COVID-19 situation. So with that, let me request Abhishek Shetty. He's a CMO and head of e-commerce and omnisales at Salio.com. Abhishek, all yours.
Hey all, I think first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on the panel. My name is Abhishek Shetty, and I head marketing and e-commerce business for the French menswear fashion brand called Celio. For those of y'all who probably haven't heard about us, a bit about us is we've been in the country for about 11 years now. We have about close to 600 points of sale spread across 150 odd cities and presence across most marketplaces and e-commerce platforms and even our own website called Celio.in. I think moving on quickly to the topic, and I think we're discussing something obviously quite relevant today. I personally don't think there has been a time where businesses and business leaders across industries have related to each other in the way they are today, right? I mean, challenges and issues are quite similar in nature. I complete more than a decade in the workforce, and when I first started my professional career, I was greeted with this beauty called the global financial crisis of 2008. I'm not kidding. I graduated in the very same month that Lehman Brothers crashed. So it was quite a time to be fresh out of college, bubbling with energy and looking to join the workforce. So 11 years later, I think we're here with a far bigger challenge on our hands. I think currently most of us are focusing, including at CEDO, we're focusing a lot more on crisis management and contingency planning. But eventually, we obviously want to shift focus towards reimagining this industry, our business models, the way we work, and the way we market to our consumers. I think there'll be dramatic shifts in the global economy and consumer behavior in the post-corona, post-COVID world. Two learnings I'd end with this that I think have stayed with me from the 2008 crisis. I think when the world was in turmoil, there was no better place to be. And I feel the same way about the current situation as well. I think we will come out of this situation much stronger than most other countries. The second is, I think a lot of us came out as a far more efficient versions of ourselves after the 2008 crisis. And I think the same is going to happen today. We're going to be a lot more nimble, innovate faster, and become more ROI focused. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you had graduated in 2008. We'll have a separate conversation on how did you deal with that sudden change. When we've gone through cycles like these, we can probably be more ready to address new challenges.
Correct.
But when you're a young student looking out to start your career, this could be a very interesting experience. But thank you very much for your sharing your experiences and your current set of challenges. We'll deliberate onto this more. Let me now invite Abhinav Dipankar, Head of Sales at Field
Mhm.
Fresh Foods. Abhinav, if you can hear us, please share with us
Yeah.
your opening remarks and a bit about yourself. You have extensive experience, so
Right.
I'd love to hear more from you.
Right. So I've been in this FMCG or related industries for over 17 years now, and probably worked in every corner of the country and lot of different sectors within FMCG. I've done paints, I've done food and beverage, I've done personal care. Right now, I'm back in food and beverage. I'm heading sales for Field Fresh Foods, and we manufacture and market the Del Monte brand in India. Having seen the FMCG industry and a lot of challenges that this industry has faced over a period of time, where it was 2008 financial meltdown, which also impacted this recessions, or to say more recently, the demonetization phenomena, which had hit the industry hard at some point in time. Having gone through all that and still sitting here, I can tell you this was something that just came out of the blue, and nobody could have figured out what is happening right now. Having said that, it has also shown us how adaptive, how flexible, how resilient we are, because we being a food company, our supplies are essential supplies, and that's something we require to maintain. And within 3 to 4 days of lockdown, we just bounced back. We took every step, and we managed to get our production online. Within 4 to 5 days, we managed to get our supply chains working. We found new ways of connecting to the retailers who retail our products. We found new ways of persuading our distributors and helping them out to operate in this complexity, getting them the required licenses, permits, trying to help them to whatever extent we can with their manpower problems to run operations. We also pivoted and reached out to the consumers directly with various formats that were available, whether it was tying up with food delivery platforms, whether it was just going directly through them with a toll-free number on which the consumers can directly call us. So we did all that. We're in the process of tying up with some of the B2B players to just increase reach. And the whole idea is to get food supplies available for every consumer at hand. And that's the motto that we have been following. And in the process, as I was saying, we surprised ourselves because we did so many things which probably in a traditional scenario we would not have done. We would have deliberated, would have probably gone slow on, but just we did this overnight and tried to be there for the consumers. And as I see it, this scenario will change the consumer behavior, which we will discuss as this panel goes on. Quite a lot, and some of the segments like food and beverages will see a large shift coming in, is what my perception is. And a lot of it is a lot of these shifts are going to be going to bring things which are very different from what we have seen in the past. Some will find it tough to align, but it will also open a host of new opportunities, and a lot of us in the industry will catch on to it very fast, is what my belief is. And having seen the markets in this country and the consumer in this country for so many years, this is a very resilient country and a very adaptive country. So as Abhishek rightly mentioned, my belief also is that we will come out of this problem stronger and maybe faster than a lot of the countries across the globe. And we will find ways to harness the new opportunities, while there will be some hit the industry will take, or some damages due to the disruption of the current consumption patterns, and the supply chain networks, the overall economic activity that is going on. But most of the industry, I think, will find ways of shifting to the new consumption pattern, and will find its footing back, maybe much faster than some of us can think.
Thank you, Abhinav, for the opening remarks and your kind introduction. It'll be good to hear your insights on how have you guys pivoted on traditional supply chain and demand supply equations in the last 4 5 weeks, given the extreme amount of challenges. We'll have Akshay Ambardar join us a little later, so we'll request him. He's from Tata Click, so we'll ask him to share his remarks a little later. With that, let me move to now Arpan Biswas. Arpan is VP Marketing at House Joy, a brand we're all very familiar with, a pure digital brand, and housejoy.in. Let me request you now, Arpan, for your opening remarks and a bit about yourself, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me here. My name is Arpan. I'm roughly 10 years into the industry. Started with automobiles, worked across a few other sectors before moving into HouseJoy a couple of months back. We all are going through unprecedented times, and the interesting part being the first time we interact with each other and realize what each other is doing, and seeing how things are so different than it used to be just a couple of months back. Things have changed so much. As a business as well, HouseJoy is primarily into on-demand services, serving across 6 cities in India. We have also pivoted our model in the last couple of months, rather in the last 1 month itself, where we have started grocery deliveries, which is one of the top fastest growing business lines these days. And few of our other business lines have also seen unprecedented jumps like fumigation, pest control in the recent past. So yeah, so I think as a marketer, there's a lot of opportunity as well during such times. And given that the discussion has always been about ROI and how marketers are supposed to increase the impact of every penny being spent, this is the right time to do that. This is the time when you need to understand what content you're promoting and what is working the best at the lowest amount of money being spent. That's what we are doing too. And love to exchange notes with the rest of you here in the next 1.5 hours. Thanks.
Thank you, Arpan, for your introductory remarks and your opening remarks about how do you see, and I'll be keen to understand from you, how do you see the shift between in the last few weeks between the metro areas and non-metro areas.
Sure.
With that, let me now invite Jasmeet Thind. Did I get your last name right, Jasmeet? And courtloot.com. He's the co-founder and comes with rich experience in the digital space. So with that, let me invite Jasmeet for your introductory remarks and a bit about yourself, please.
Hey guys, great to be here. I think I come from the more modern experience and the more tech side of things. So what Kootlu does is basically we're one of India's largest social commerce company, which helps offline retailers sell online directly to consumers all over the country using just a phone and internet, taking the inventory online where they can connect with buyers from different parts of the country, chat in local languages and sell their products to people all over the country, right? Before this, I've had some interesting experiences. I was at Godrej, where I used to work at innovations. And then I was one of the youngest ever brand managers at Levers, where I was handling a brand called Pairs, which we're all familiar with. So having worked in FMCG retail space for about 5 years before starting Kootloot, which basically works at the grassroots level. What we're seeing right now, in fact, I would be very honest, is that we're actually in the middle of, as a business, we're in the middle of this change where, businesses are coming online and they're coming online really, really fast. This is a time in India where, probably you can directly compare it to the 2003 SARS event in China, where internet and commerce actually took off. Internet commerce in India is still very, very small. The market maturity is still very small. We only are sitting at about 4% penetration of all internet users. Indians still haven't tried a lot of online commerce. Offline is still the way to go. But that is changing, and that is changing fast. For one example, I can tell you guys that, we used to onboard close to about 800 sellers every day. Today, we're sitting at about 4,000 new sellers registering on the platform every day.
Wow.
With almost 10,000 new users registering organically. This is the change that is happening currently. And these are exciting times. As everyone said, I don't need to, probably repeat that, of course, a lot of companies are going to change the way things work. A lot of consumers are going to change things work. But at the same time, we're sitting at the crux of the opportunity where, digital businesses are looking ways to connect offline to online, and offline businesses are looking to go digital. So, there's an inflection point right now where we are, and that's interesting. So with that, I would probably, save the rest for later and keep it really short. And over to you guys.
Thank you, Jasmeet, for that introduction and also opening remarks. Fabulous to learn about your 5x growth in terms of new merchants signing up. Love to know more about in detail. With that, let me invite Sarika Grover. She is the co-founder and CEO of Green Giraffes. She works with many retail brands, and in spirit of full disclosure, I've known Sarika as a friend, as an industry professional for a long time. And I'll let Sarika do her introduction and also opening remarks on how she sees this working with so many brands across India.
Thanks, Puneet. Thanks for inviting me here. And hello to all my co-panelists and the participants and people who organized the event. My name is Sarika. I've been in the retail industry, offline and online, for about 17 years now. I currently run Green Giraffe, which is a consulting firm. We work with brands across multiple domains and sectors to scale revenue. So it could be based on marketplaces and Amazon and other ecosystems. It could be web store, it could be brand and communication, social conversations, but on your in the digital landscape. and we've worked across sectors like fashion, lifestyle, poker, jewelry, pet supplies, toys, intimate products for women, and with 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 COVID, I'm seeing very different reactions across each of these sectors. Some have which have fallen the essentials have climbed, and some of the sectors which are non-essentials are taking a hit when it comes to revenue, and hence changing. Though the landscape is all digital for me, but the conversations are changing. Like the conversations are moving from conversion focus right now to how do we communicate and stay in touch with the brand, with the consumers. How do we just focus on brand awareness at the moment? So those are some of the shifts I see. Supply chain has been a big concern. So I do see a fast track on digital. We were anyway on a path on digital. I just see it accelerated to add on to what Jasmeet said. It's going to skyrocket, and there's going to be a fair amount of innovation which will happen within the sector. So we'll talk about it as we go along. Thanks, Puneet.
Thanks, Sarika. And in the spirit of offline and online coming together, here is my little update and reminder for all of you. If you can see this, this is hashtag Let's Talk Retail. So if you can see this, yes, can you see this? Yes, of course.
Yes.
So can you just use this hashtag? All my invited guests on the live seminar, you can use this hashtag Let's Talk Retail. And you can, of course, look up Internet Commerce Summit later for a lot more such seminars that we have done in the past, and a lot of good video content available. With that, let me open up the panel now a little bit, going into a little deeper into e-commerce specifically. We've seen that e-commerce has grown in the last 4 weeks, especially in the essentials area, life essentials, and that part has sort of taken off. And in that context, my question, and perhaps each one of you can take a look at this question. We can start with Abhishek, but the question is very simple: how will this permanently shift the internet commerce in India in your specific domain? So we've seen a lot of changes, supply chain, demand, and what are the short-term and mid-term implications? Short-term being next 3 months, mid-term could be 6 to 8 months, 9 months. So if you look at specifically, there's a lot of disruption in e-commerce in the last 4 weeks. For many positive, for some, it's been a complete U-turn or 180. What are some of those learnings that you'd like to see continue, or would you see will continue in your specific domain? Okay.
So, we basically sit on the discretionary spend sort of a zone, and honestly, it's been a very tough month and a half, because non-essentials as a category has not been able to operate, right? But what we are seeing as a trend is there is a huge digital. The panel spoke about it in detail. I think social distancing has highlighted the importance of digital channels more than ever. And as companies, all of us are trying to. We've always been trying to go digital, but as someone pointed out, I think getting accelerated right now. So if I have to look at the rest of the world, especially China, where they are in a recovery phase right now, if you look at Taobao, right, which is owned by Alibaba, they've seen a 700% increase in traffic.
Well,
And that sort of talks about how e-commerce and digital channels are actually going to evolve over the next few months. So there are two schools of thought that we are sort of debating internally with. One is, categories which are discretionary spend will obviously go down because everyone is in their survival mindset, sort of an instinct, right? And that will probably affect discretionary spend. The other school of thought obviously is that people are going to get out, and there's something called as revenge spending. So there's so much pent up sort of demand that it's going to suddenly explode. So we're sort of debating between both sides right now. Our sense right now is that the next 2 quarters is going to be a bit slow, and it's going to normalize or probably go in the positive trend starting the third quarter. And that's what we're preparing right now towards. So just to come to the point, I think we ran a few micro experiments on our own captive website, which is sealer.in. We are not able to fulfill these orders, but we are still seeing a lot of people placing orders.
wow.
It's about 3 times more than normal. So there is a bit of optimism out there, and we hope to leverage that.
Thank you, Abhishek. Let me now bring in Abhinav. Abhinav, you are heading sales for Feel Fresh, Life Essentials. What would be your take on this? Have you seen
Right.
e-commerce guys ask you for a lot more and you're not able to deliver on time? What's been the
So
impact?
yeah, let me say, e-commerce was anyway on the rise, and we were seeing the whole trajectory of e-commerce going up. What this event has done was probably exactly what it did for Paytm, what demonetization did. Something like that has been done for e-commerce with this entire event, and e-commerce has taken off a lot faster than it would have, and I
What sort
think
of
they are.
percentage growth have you seen? I'm sorry, I'm because
So
I'm
I'll
excited.
not like to not like to get into numbers, but you can say 2 to 3 times of the normal orders is easily something that they are getting. But the point is that, see, in the short term, there is an e-commerce infrastructure that also needs to be available to service that kind of demand. And where we are seeing a challenge with e-commerce is their infrastructure was not probably geared to handle this kind of a demand. Whether it was their fulfillment centers getting clogged, or their delivery manpower not being there, or their own internal supply chains struggling to cater to this kind of a surge. So that is a reality of the businesses right now on the ground, and they are from their side doing their best to scale up, given all the limitations that are there in place today, to scale up the infrastructure to meet this kind of demand. So while and the point I'm trying to make is, while we can look at these demand figures and be excited about multiplicity of demand that is suddenly hit, there is an ability to service also, and that ability to service will still be far higher than what it was doing, but maybe not 10 times of what it was doing, maybe 3 to 4 times of what it was doing. What it has done is, everybody in the entire ecosystem, e-commerce ecosystem, right from the suppliers, that is people like us, the vendors for them, to their own internal processes, people, etc., and all the stakeholders realize that there is a need for a far larger, a better, a much smoother functioning infrastructure in place for e-commerce, because the potential is probably a lot more in the short run also that we thought is there, because we had assumed a certain conversion rate of online ordering, but it just beat everything that we assumed. So that piece is still being worked on. How do I see it going forward? Once these temporary roadblocks are solved for, you will see e-commerce sitting in a much higher trajectory than we ever thought that it would reach so soon. It would have reached, but it would reach so soon is the point. Uh,
Great.
will people be online, or will they kind of come back? People who were not doing those trials and not exposed to ordering online have suddenly got exposed to ordering online. They have tried various kind of things, various apps, all the platforms, and I think a lot of them will just stay there with e-com and online ordering, and probably will choose not to come back. How will the vendors respond? I think we, as I told you, we were already responding very well to e-commerce, because that was on an upsurge. We will just shift our focus more towards it. We'll be more agile, more flexible towards partnering with e-com, and we'll come out with new and innovative ways to partner not only with e-com players, with other technology-driven players as well. Probably in the industry, you may like we just jumped into associations with the food delivery aggregators, because they moved into grocery servicing. So that's another e-com platform that started servicing demand. This will bring in a lot of associations. A lot of business relationships will get formed, which probably would not have without this event. It will also bring in some experimentation on the D2C model from various brands, which probably would have taken much longer in this particular country, and it was on a slow pace. But you will find now people actually going out and experimenting with consumers, because every one of these brands today, with a lot of constraints in the physicality of the business space, everyone is just trying to reach out virtually and connect with the consumer, as with much higher level of engagement than they have ever done. and as best as they can. And that will lead to a lot of D2C experimentation that you will also see. So overall, we are very positive on e-commerce. We feel that it was always the future, and that future we have just walked into that future much sooner than we would have thought. And every one of us in the industry will gear itself much better to service the demands of e-commerce, to make our internal processes, mechanisms to suit e-commerce platforms much more, and e-commerce ordering patterns and consumption behaviors much more. So that's where I'll leave.
Thank you, Abhinav. For categories like yours, where physical delivery is key, infrastructure capacity both on demand side and supply side is key. So thank you very much for those insights. Let me now bring in Arpan Viswas. So Arpan, in your category, House Joy, what has this meant, and what are so the changes you've seen in the last 3 to 4 weeks? Which of those do you see will continue for at least short to midterm?
Sure, thanks, Punita. I think before moving to HouseJoy, a bit about how overall e-commerce is doing. I think it's not only about e-commerce; it's more to do with the categories. If you look at transport, if you look at a category like us, home maintenance or fashion and cosmetics, everything is shut down right now. So it's more than the e-commerce bit of it, it's about which category you present in, be it OTT or say online education, which are really booming. So that these are the categories which are going to get a huge push. And I think this is COVID is uh, unfortunately the best campaign they could have had. Their marketers could have come up with, right? Uh, from HouseJoy point of view, I see a lot of surge in CFO services, as I had earlier pointed out as well, be it fumigation or be it in grocery, we are seeing immense jump in traffic and conversion on a day-to-day basis. If I have to quote numbers, it's around 100% on day-to-day basis in terms of growth, because we are extremely small. We started a couple of weeks back. Uh, Also, I see a lot of traffic being driven from certain zones which are more prone, or certain age group which are more prone to COVID-19, be the senior citizens. Uh, in terms of impact, I think short term, a lot of share of pocket will go into e-commerce platforms, because customers tend to move towards brands which are more trusted, and it's easier to create a brand in e-commerce these days. But having said that, I have also seen a lot of issues with supply in e-commerce, even for the core categories, right? Even for the institutional categories, I am sure you all can relate to that. Until unless that is taken care of, and until unless e-commerce is adding a lot of value in terms of quality, convenience, as well as pricing, it'll be difficult for e-commerce to customers to stick on to e-commerce, and the retention rates might not be that great, right? So it all depends on how the brands perform right now in terms of providing the best to the customers, and a lot will depend on that.
Thank you, Arpan, for that comment on how you think in your category and how this will change across many categories. Let me now invite Jasmeet for your remarks on this question. The question is very simple: which are the permanent shifts we have seen in e-commerce in the last 4 weeks, internet commerce, and which are the what are the short-term and mid-term implications for this? Give me a minute or two.
Sure. I think the biggest change that you will see is more and more supply that was offline will go online. I think demand is directly linked to supply. So when I say supply, you'll also probably see a lot of sellers who were offline will go online and start selling for the first time in their lives, and that's a big change that's going to happen. I do not think the rise of D2C will be as fast as the rise of rise of offline to online, or individual or small businesses going online, because a lot of the small businesses that are going online today are actually distributing their products not via websites but actually via social links. So the change is going to happen, similarly to the WeChat era. WhatsApp is actually going to be at the center of this, and people are going to distribute products socially through WhatsApps, through Facebooks of the world. Two reasons. Number one, because there's a big audience that's already there on these platforms. So reaching out to them, distributing them is going to be really, really simple without changing the behavior. And number two, also because social also creates a lot of trust. In my first remark, I said that probably 4% of India actually transacts online. You've seen Flipkart and Amazon of the world put in billions of dollars in creating a market, right? But still, why is there only a 4% penetration? It's very simple. The reason for that is, as Indians, the way we shop and the way we sell products is not how the West does. And coming from a company that we're building, we're actually kind of building the Taobao for India, right? And for the same, we also work with a lot of our Chinese counterparts. So I think supply chain and driving supply chains deeper into smaller towns is going to be the key. And so one of the biggest problem of supply chains in India is that 80% of all products in the lifestyle fashion segment are actually Chinese. So and how the supply chain works is that the product from China actually is bought by an agent who gives it to a national distributor, who gives it to a regional distributor, who gives it to a wholesaler, and then it comes to the retailer. So you can imagine the price, that is going to, rise across these supply chains. And we understand that. And since we work with offline sellers and really, really small sellers, what we've also done is we've given access of this supply directly to small shops who can connect directly with factories and order, removing all the middlemen out. Because when you give supply for cheap, sellers are going to be able to make money. And a retailer is the one in the unorganized space whose margins are not fixed. He's the one who's going to bargain and sell. He's the one who's actually selling the same product at different prices to different people, right? So you have to protect that guy, and you have to make sure the transition of that guy is really important, because he's probably 80 times or 60 times more in numbers than the organized space. So I think the unorganized space is going to become organized. That's a big shift that's going to happen, and you will see a lot of small businesses, small sellers take over the internet using social media as distribution platforms, and buyers also buying through these platforms. I think the market maturity will eventually come because of this habit.
Thank you, Jasmeet, for that insight. I do believe that the informal sector has tasted blood for the first time using internet, even through simple lists on WhatsApp to pick up orders and deliver. So this is going to be a big momentum for them in the short to midterm. Let me now invite Sarika. I'm sure, Sarika, you must have received two types of calls from retail marketeers and retail teams in the last 4 weeks. Calls of stress. What do I do? My store is shut. Or the calls of, hey, we cannot hire fast enough in e-commerce companies in essential retail um, format or category. What is your take? You work with so many brands in India. What's your take? What are the likely trends likely to stay back from the last 4 weeks for next short to midterm?
So in the last 4 weeks, actually, it's been mixed. I've seen, as I mentioned earlier, I've seen because of the lockdown and non-essentials not being allowed to sell. Like I've seen in clients where even though they're digital and online, and their sales have been completely stopped. So then it's been, okay, how do we relook at revenue? How do we relook at marketing conversations? Move focus from conversions, move to traffic awareness. I've also seen a spike in the gaming sector. So suddenly everybody's sitting at home and they don't know what to do with their time. So the net share of like just entertainment online has increased, and a lot of it has gone to gaming besides your Netflix and your Prime and Hotstar. So it's a shift both ways. But for each of the sectors, like whether it's going up or it's going down, the plan that was made for like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, all has gone for a toss, right? So for some, you have to gear up faster. And for some, you're saying, how do you pull down? Also, how you market and how you sell is changing irrespective of where you are, right? Because of the consumption of online and everybody being on the device more than the TV, it's just skyrocketed. So you're redoing even your social conversation, like within your marketing budget, you're kind of shuffling and saying, okay, how do I now put my spend, and how do I reach out to different segments? Like personally for me, for example, within my house and at my space, I can see my parents try online for the first time. They were comfortable with an Amazon, for example, but they're actually going niche and buying from whoever is willing to deliver, versus because Amazon and some of the bigger names can't deliver right now. They're not being able to service. So a lot of niche businesses are coming up online and people are experimenting with it, including conversations like, is it safe to put my credit card in? Can I put it in this one? Can I try it? Okay, first time I'll try on a Paytm or a COD, and then I will go online. So some of those conversations are starting to happen, and across age brackets and segment. In a short term, I don't, and for me, short term window is like 3 months, and I do not see in non-essential a spike, even if lockdown opens up. I think people will play conservative. Yes, I would agree with Abhishek and say some people will go aggressive and do revenge buying, but overall, I think that's how I understand it. People will be conservative in non-essential purchase at the moment. But in the longer run or midterm run, which is about 9 to 10 months in my mind, I think some of that will stabilize. What would be important is to keep an eye out, because the economy is a social distancing economy right now. So there'll be a toggle off and a toggle on. Like suddenly in June, there could be a toggle off. August, it'll toggle on. Winters are coming. Oh my God, virus will explode, shut down. So all businesses and brands, whether you're online, offline, but in whichever sector, will have to build scenarios and keep that agility in place, saying, okay, what happens if 2 months down the line, suddenly we have to lock down or scale back? And what happens when we suddenly we open up and we're ready to go all out? I think that is very, very critical. And the second thing is margins would be important, because so far online has been looked at as discounting channels. So people work with lesser margins, liquidating their products. And now when there's going to be such a strong shift from offline to online, and it's not going back to, I mean, it'll go back to some degree, but we are moving online and much faster. So how do you sell full price? Can your business sustain on the margins that you had allocated earlier to offline? So I think the entire business, from a margin financial point of view, all businesses will have to relook, keeping online in mind. And rest is, of course, what everybody's talked about, supply chain, etc. So I'm not going to go there. But these are 2 points from my perspective. Back
Thank
to
you,
you.
Sarika. I agree with you that the business agility in our business plans will probably be, we won't have annual plans anymore, 6 monthly plans, but maybe 6 week plans or 4 week plans, and see how the consumer demand picks up. Uh, I'd asked these set of questions online. So there's another question that has come from one of our viewers. It is, what are the challenges for the physical presence retail, meaning store retail, that you anticipate? Imagine the lockdown has opened. In the meantime, we cannot switch off the marketing engines. And Sarika did allude to it about engagement campaigns more than conversion campaigns. But how can experiential brand marketers who have focused more on store experiences create new opportunities given social distancing and its likely impact on mall footfalls? So before we have the lockdown opened up and we have relaxation in social distancing, people, of course, social distancing will remain, but more people like to go to a physical store. What can marketeers do in the short term? And I think for this, given your experiences, Abhishek Shetty, perhaps you can share, how are you preparing for that shift when it opens, when your 600 plus stores across India open up? I could also invite perhaps Akshay is not there on the call right now, but perhaps also Sarika and Abhishek to deliberate on this. And perhaps if Abhinav, you have a point of view on how physical store retail experience, what should marketers do? I know, Abhinav, you come from a strong sales background, but maybe after Abhishek, you could tell us what are you expecting your marketers to do for you in the meantime. Over to you, Abhishek.
So this is a very raw, touches a very raw nerve in terms of a question, because
Sorry about that.
I just finished a discussion about some of the initiatives that we are probably going to do, and honestly this is work in progress, right? But something that's clear and something that we're talking about is the consumer purchase metrics, the factors that they earlier actually used to factor into their buying process, is going to change. Suddenly you're going to have, for example, if I give you the example of a fashion store, right? Are our clothes being sanitized every time someone tries it, right?
Wow.
You typically had a salesperson coming really close to the consumer and like, sir, this is the product, these are the features, this is how you will sell. But you can't do that anymore, right? So suddenly there's a need about, can you bring technology or a virtual trial room technology into the store buying purchase, not just online but also offline? Can you place a tab or a huge digital screen where people don't need to actually physically try the merchandise, but they actually use technology to be able to try the product? Are trial rooms being sanitized regularly, right? So we are right now trying to figure out whether there are agencies, audit agencies for that matter, who actually come and give you an audit certificate. Because there's one thing that you're claiming that trial rooms are sanitized, but the other thing is, how do you make consumers believe and feel at peace about something like this? And there's again a huge gap in agencies trying to do. There are very few. There are few in the restaurant space, but there's no one in the sort of apparel retail and retail store space. The other interesting thing that we're noticing is, like, to some of my colleagues in the Zomato world and the Swiggy world, right? And one of the consumer behavior that's evolving very strong, restaurants which give a very strong hygiene rating, are seeing skyrocketing in terms of scales, in terms of sales, right? And this is something as a metric that didn't exist at all. About
Interesting.
I don't think any one of us looked at hygiene rating of a restaurant. Maybe a few of us did, but not every one of us did actually. So we are trying to do everything. We're trying to design setups where we can probably put sanitizers in place, which again can be contactless. We are trying to talk to technology startups to see how we can enhance the entire trial room experience, billing experience. Can we stop giving physical bills? Can we instead send out bills on WhatsApp or over emails? So a lot of the typical retail SOP processes are changing. And I think that's where we're trying to make a change.
Thank you, Abhishek. Can I bring you, Abhinav, if you have a point of view in terms of, when consumers go
Yeah.
back to retail stores again, you have a beautiful opportunity, isn't it? They have been not been exposed to many experiential marketing. You as a leading brand in the category you are in, essentials. Are you looking forward to grading them separately, differently? Any promos? What are you asking your marketers to do for you?
So let me, if you see, do we feel that suddenly physical retail will be able to make a comeback? I think it will take some time for physical retail to make a comeback. It will make a comeback in different variations of what we used to see. Is how I'll put it across. Like large hyper stores, which used to see huge footfall, which were more of places for social gathering or entertainment or part of the mall, and you just kind of stepped into it and did shopping as well as a family outing. I mean, those kind of behaviors would see a change. Those shopper behaviors might see a change. You will see probably in the short to mid term a reduction in traffic, as people would want to stay away from a crowded place. They would want to, at least for a few months, and they would probably still want to stick largely to online shopping or shopping where they do not face those kind of crowds there. One phenomena which will, and this shift of online ordering is actually happening a lot from the physical space. So you'll have to account for it that this movement which you're seeing in online ordering will have its own impact on the store footfalls that you're going to see. uh, One phenomena that beautifully is coming out, and I see that is your nearby kirana stores making a comeback. And I see them making a comeback with the help of technology. I see them making a comeback on digital platforms. So you go to a Swiggy marketplace, Zomato marketplace right now, and you'll find at various distances the kirana stores around your house. And the same kirana that you used to probably walk to, you can today order online and get a home delivery. So digitization of your neighborhood kirana store is something that I see as a phenomena coming up, which will bring them back into business. I mean, they were facing a brunt of a lot of these hyperstores. So I think it's the other way around. Going to be the other way around now. The larger store chains would shift a lot of their business to online, and these guys will digitize themselves. And when they digitize themselves, uh, it has a lot of opportunity for them, not only in terms of servicing their demand, but managing their inventories, getting new clients in, getting new people to order, ability to market on the platform itself, ability to highlight your store on the platform. All that goes up. So it's a different world for these kirana people. Also, the B2B e-com companies, I'll not say e-com companies, the B2B supply companies, which were trying to address the needs of the smaller kiranas, may gain significance in this entire process. Companies like you have Udan, you have Shop Kirana, these kind of companies, they might just get significance in this whole scenario, because there is a lot of app ordering, uh, which they're trying to build in as a habit with these kirana stores. They had their apps, and these people had to order. It was taking some time. Now, if you were a small kirana store with 3, 4, 500 square feet space, you may ask yourself the question that would you want 100 salesmen from 100 different brands visiting your store every day, or would you actually try an app ordering system from one of those B2B platforms to fulfill your requirement?
That's a good
And this
point,
is a
Abhinav. Yep.
phenomena. Yeah. So
Yep.
this is a phenomena that I'm looking very closely at, and I feel that this just might give wings to these B2B supply companies and the whole app ordering phenomena. And again, as I was saying, it has various benefits of inventory control, availability simply of much higher number of SKUs, giving choice to the consumers. The turnaround time from these stores to the neighboring consumers also is very fast, because you can have home deliveries or pick up through these delivery platforms done very, very quickly. So you don't have to wait for the delivery slots or give a delivery slot for the next day. And so the equations in retail will change. That's how I see it happening. And these are some of the new phenomena that we might end up seeing.
Thank you, Abhinav, for that insight about how digitization will actually help a lot of our local kirana shops look at entire execution very differently. I'd like to bring in Sarika for her final comment on this question about Sarika. If you're talking to marketeers who have built a lot of campaigns around store footfalls and physical experience and experiential retail, such luxury, semi-luxury, what would you tell them now? Shut off everything, or what would you recommend they should do?
Um, so I'm going to talk in a slightly longer term perspective, because I think the next 2-3 months are going to be hard for consumers to even go back to the malls. The malls are going to take a hit. The rentals are going to take a hit. So that's a completely separate piece. But in a slightly more, like when people are a little more settled and not as scared to kind of go to malls or stores, your experience within the store is important. And Abhishek has touched very pointedly on some of the aspects of care and hygiene being very important, audits being important. To my degree, we were brainstorming. I was brainstorming with somebody in the apparel sector, and we were saying, can you like do visible, like, can you know how you sometimes have kitchens which are visible
Yep.
kitchens that you can see the food being cooked? Can there be visible cleaning processes within the ecosystem, so that I can actually see, besides of course an audit and certification, etc., whoever can do visible cleaning? Is that one way to get people back? But in my mind now, to get people back into the store, the experience will need to go like 10x. Whether you need to have, for example, on fashion brands, you need a stylist in. What is the distance that you're keeping? Should you have stylist in? Should you have only new ranges and collections, or a newer merchandise into the stores? Can you pick up trends and do focus groups and conversations in those areas? So the spaces you may reduce, the number of stores may reduce, but your experience within the stores need to grow far more. And then how you blend offline online. How do you integrate if you don't have something in one store? I don't need to go to 10 other stores to get the product. I should get, like, for once, I think omni-channel, which is in my mind an abused word over the last so many years, is actually going to make a difference, and people are going to look at it more seriously. The integration of offline and online. I could buy anything from anywhere, wherever I am, like even if I'm in a store, and get it delivered. So I think those are some of my thoughts on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarika, for answering that question. The question is very simple. What are the trends you see that will change in the short to mid-term, and which will continue to grow in e-commerce? And let's shift gears. And before I do that, I do have a request for almost 100 participants we have online off and on, that please use hashtag. Hashtag is very simple. Let's talk retail is the hashtag. So pop your questions. You can quote us on Twitter, other platforms as well. Now, I have to mention there are three folks who are very important to put this entire experience together, three sets of people. Speakers like each one of you. Many of you are in the middle of firefighting, responding to a lot of on-the-fly discussions, decisions. So thank you for taking your time off from your busy schedules to be part of this conversation. Of course, Internet Commerce Summit, Phygital Retail, because they are the people who have put this together. Of course, we have to also thank our sponsors who have helped us enable this entire experience together. Green Honchos, E-commerce Simplified, and also Casa, which is a retail AI company. So thank you guys for all three sets of you for being here and helping us with this. My next question is a little bit more sensitive. And as we go, follow-up questions will get more and more pointed. So get ready, guys. My fellow
Puneet,
panelist speakers. Yes.
I would just button for a
Sure.
minute.
Yeah, please.
Akshay, I think, has joined in, and I think he's using my link, so his name is coming as Anurima. So yeah.
Hi, Akshay.
Okay,
Welcome to this
yeah.
talk. And if you can, it says Anurima, but you are Akshay. So Akshay, if you can take a few minutes to do your opening remarks because we missed you in the first part. Tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, where you are, and some trends you've seen specifically in the last 4 to 6 weeks in your domain. Just for reminders, Akshay Ambardar is head of digital marketing at Tata Click. So over to you. Akshay, take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself and your opening remarks about our topic today.
Sure. Thanks, Puneet, and good to be on this panel. A big hello to fellow panelists. Sure. So, yeah, I think interesting times. I would say interesting both because these are challenging times, and these are times where basically as a marketer we have to be on, I think, extremely on top of things, how customers are looking at situations, right? So I think one thing that is certainly gone out the window is predictability, right? So for example, in a lot of scenarios that we have been encountering, predictability is one of the key aspects, right? Building any kind of marketing plans, right? You look at brand budgets, you look at performance marketing campaigns, you look at how you are basically interacting with your audiences on social and non-social platforms. We basically operate in a very the landscapes are very normal. Now the definition of new normal has kicked in. Everybody is trying to second guess the future. A lot of confusion around what can happen, what is permissible, what is non permissible. That is forcing us to be completely fluid. If not, I would choose adaptable because by nature I think human beings are adaptable. But the challenge here is to be extremely fluid and be reactive to everything and anything that is happening in our environments around, right? And that is obviously taking its toll, on everything. And marketing is part of that larger, universal set. Uh, but sure, I think my positive takeaways and just a quick brief on where am I and what I've been doing. So I was heading digital for Tata Click for last few years. I recently joined a new company. I joined Flipkart Group now. In my current role, and I started this role amid the lockdown. So I'm still working from home in my sense. So I had a exit from a previous company from home. I joined my new company from home. So it doesn't feel like anything, but yeah, it is. It is that these are those days, right? So I recently joined Flipkart, and I've been part of Myntra, marketing team now. So I think getting and now I basically to give you clear why I basically went into these two companies and then how they are aligning. So from a brand native, from a digital native brands, uh, I think both places. While I was at Tata Click in last 1 month when the lockdown essentially started, and now at Myntra where I'm there, completed almost 2.5 3 weeks. The initial idea is to basically, uh, keep the relevancy of the platform going, right? So which means that what are consumers buying today, right? And if you look at how consumers are buying, they're only allowed to buy essentials like beauty, healthcare, some grooming, and face masks, right? So I've seen quickly ramp ups on the demand supply side on both the platforms, keeping engaging content going within the platform, right? So, for example, you look at Flipkart, you look at Myntra, and I was just surfing Tata Click yesterday. There's a lot of emphasis now on the content creation, content distribution. There are a lot of engagement, plays that brands and companies are looking differently, right? So, for example, Myntra, there's a lot of conversations around, creating video content for the platform. There are a lot of apps which have gaming, built in and which have been launched on the platform. Similarly, at Flipkart, now they are providing I think they have tied up with one of the entertainment, and all the films are basically getting, it's like a OTT, part OTT player, right? And I was looking at Tata Tech, just 2 days back, and they have also launched 5, 6 different games, right? Uh, and I was just wondering, this was never important to us, right? So, you know, 2 months ago, somebody would have come back to me and asked me that, hey, Akshay, would you want to, uh, I have this fantastic, mobile app game. Let's talk about integration. I was like, yeah, sure, sure. Let me first focus on other important things, and we'll talk about this, right? I think that's completely changed heads on. So marketing has changed heads on. Their priorities have changed heads on. I know I can't go and talk to consumers that, hey, buy from me because I'm the cheapest, I'm the best, right? Because the reality of the situation is that, cheap doesn't work. Customers are looking at accessibility, and I would like to name a couple of, you know, real world examples like Swiggy.
Akshay, if you hold on to it, because we have questions for you. We're not letting you go after this. You're not coming in, doing a talk for a few minutes and going away. So let me just, first of all, thank you very much for doing your introduction to us, and congratulations on your new assignment.
Thank
This is
you.
also, I think, a new normal where we'll be congratulating folks on live conference calls and video sessions. So thank you very much, Akshay, for your introduction and your opening remarks, where you talked about how OTT company gamification is happening on retail platforms, e-commerce platforms. That's a wonderful question. I'll go a little deeper now, and this question perhaps is open to all of you on my panel, which is, I've been around for a few years, so I used to see that around 2014, 2013, 2015, a lot of our behavior as e-commerce marketeers was driven with investments we had. The entire focus was on acquisition and scale and hyper growth. Growth hacking was the buzzword, and a lot of access to money. So we had a lot of different behavior. You could interview a marketer for social media marketing, and he would say, "Look, I'm used to a 5 crore budget every month. So what will you spend? What will you be spending, right?" And you would look at him saying, "Okay, wow, this is interesting, right?" That changed with 2017, 18, 19, and this is now the new normal even for digital marketeers. If you would like to call it version 3.0 for digital marketing in India, let's stay with that. In that context, how will 2020, the remaining why remaining next 12 months, pan out for marketeers? Two perspectives. One is, where do you see yourself investing in media, digital, what channel?
I think there's some technical
Yeah.
problem at Puneet's end.
Yeah.
He is trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anurima, we can see your screen because you're sharing your screen.
Oh,
so
that
we can-
that's
yeah, okay.
that's not my screen. That's Akshay's screen.
Okay. Okay. So we can see your files. I'm just letting.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Akshay, your screen is being visible.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying
We
to
can continue
the
giving
background, but
providing an answer to the query which Puneet had shared.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, so maybe I can start and then.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think his question was more about, how is there a certain sense of rationalization that's going to kick in, at least on the digital front when it comes to marketing, marketing is going to sort of, how is the role of marketing going to play out for the next few months, right? I think COVID or no COVID, I think this is one area that needed a lot of rationalization. We were seeing brands typically spend huge marketing money, is also giving huge discounts to acquire consumers, and the customer lifetime value of some of these customers never worked out positively, right? And I think one significant shift that's going to happen, at least that we see, is a lot of brands are going to focus on their own digital platforms. They're going to work a lot more closely with platforms like Flipkart, Myntra, Tata Click, Amazon, etc. But there's also going to be a lot more impetus given to their own platforms. In fact, we work with a lot of national chain stores and small retailers across small little cities who typically apprehensive about digital in general. And that view is changing very, very quickly. So we have someone called as Pothys, for example, who has 8 stores in between Chennai and Karnataka, and clocks a turnover of about 2,500 crores, just with those 8 stores. And he was always apprehensive about going digital, but today he's talking about how does he accelerate his digital growth. I think that's where, people like Jasmeet and all, because they are enabling and helping these people sort of come online and accelerating the entire ecosystem, which I think works in our favor. For us, the focus is always was always digital because of the younger TG that we were looking at, and I think that's only going to strengthen. So earlier, if we were looking at 40 media mix going into digital, we probably see at about 60-70% now being shifted to digital. So that's a bit from me.
Uh, if I may add to what Abhishek has said, I think
Yes, please, Arpan. Yep. Please go ahead.
I think a lot depends on the category you are in as well. If you look at the essentials category, look at online education category, these are the guys marketing right now because you can go ahead and purchase their products. For the other ones, or even a sanitizer for that matter, you'll see a lot of ads from sanitizer companies right now. And the other ones, the ones which are not allowed, will rather sit and wait for the right time to spend because it's not from just a marketing point of view, it's from a business plan point of view as well. If you see, the cost of acquisition has come down and it is going to fall over the years. Overall percentage discounts will fall down because if you can survive a crisis situation like COVID, you are there in the game for a long term. And lastly, I think what should marketeers be doing for the non-essentials category? Marketeers should rather be spending on educating customers and building trust so that when things open up, customers have enough, the brands have enough salience, and the brands move to those. The customers move to those brands instead of looking at any other brands. So that you have to engage with the customers the right manner, share information which are important to them. Simple things I would like to mention. One of the brand which have really stood out is 1mg for that matter. If you look at the emailers, they're not spending a hell lot on marketing. If you look at the emailers, they do a fantastic job on communicating what customers are really looking for, be it a thermometer, how it works, or how sanitization works, or how to keep yourself safe at home. That kind of builds a lot of salience for the brand, the customer's mind. It helps in the long run.
Thank you, Arpan, and my sincere apologies. I had some broadband issues. I'm back again here. So the question we were deliberating was what investments in what media versus what technology. If you look at last four, and maybe I should invite other speakers also to share their perspectives before I move on to a follow-up question on this one. So Sarika, Akshay, would you like to contribute to this in terms of how do you see your digital spend for next 11, 12 months change? Digital spends or technology spends, media spends, how much you're going to spend on acquisition campaigns, engagement campaigns? What are you seeing some as trends? Jasmeet, if you've not shared your perspective, I would request you to also talk about your experience.
Puneet, how I see this is yes, during the lockdown, we did see marketing spends, and all our conversations so far with most clients have been conversion led, right? There is some focus on social PR plus brand conversations, but a lot of it is very performance revenue driven. Now, those we did see a dip in the cost per conversion, so we did see the spends actually if lockdown was open, a better ROI honestly would have come out of it because your CPCs went down. But going forward, I actually and it's just my personal opinion and thought, I do think one, the marketing budgets of course will go more aggressive online. You will spend more on conversions, And maybe you'll do a split between conversions and brand awareness, social conversations. What I do see is that your costs per conversions, costs per clicks, etc., will actually increase. The reason why I say increase in the slightly longer term is because you're not going to have a lot more people come online than they were earlier. There is going to be a lot more competition for the same space and slot. There will be a lot more spends even on the social platforms, and everybody is going to go Insta live or do far more campaigns. So I actually see spends increasing, and as an overall bouquet for online, like just the overall marketing spends will increase, and hence some of the platforms and some of the ways to reach consumers will become more expensive in my mind, because you will just have a huge demand for some of those. So in my mind, it's actually going to increase. That's one. And second is within the conversations that we've been having with consumers, some of that will change. Like within technology will change. Like video is important. I've been saying it actually for 2 years that video is extremely important. All your conversations, 50%, 60% at least need to be movement. I don't even say video, I say movement, which could be GIF and all of it. So that's going to explode because people have gone online and are consuming content online now far more, including news. They've gotten comfortable with it. So all your even selling products, which Jasmeet will talk about, and we've already seen a trend in China already kicking off on that on one of Alibaba platform. The product videos will be important to sell. Yeah, we have the Bulbul TVs around, and I think some of those will explode. So those I see shifts like that happen within the marketing space. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarika. I would come to you with some information we have. For example, for the last 4 weeks, you've seen CPC costs go down by as much as 50%, but the conversion has also taken a dip. So we'll come to that as a follow-up question to you. Let me invite now, Jasmeet, your perspective on media spends or technology.
Yeah.
Where do you see your next 12 months in your company, for example? Where do you plan to invest?
Sure. So, how we do marketing is we actually give power back to the people. We don't talk to users as brands, but we let our sellers do the talking. So, how we actually, spend our marketing is, of course, you do that generic hygiene, spending on brands, creating awareness. But what we do is we actually empower our sellers to share their products on social media. And the faster they make a sale, the more money we actually give them on the earnings. So it's like a, cost per conversion, but that's on the sell side, right? Because I do believe that traditional way of digital marketing is also going to change. It's not going to be your Facebook ads, your Google ads. There's a brand that's pumping like crores of rupees. You're actually gonna, now with this shift, the power of internet, the power of distribution, the power of advertising is actually going to go back to the users, and that's what's going to happen. Because today, I'm sure all of you guys on social media see everyone selling vegetables. I mean, there is no difference between a Swiggy was selling vegetables versus Zomato selling vegetables versus even us selling vegetables. It's point of how do you stand out of the crowd? Because you don't want to see Amazon get vegetables, Swiggy get vegetables. I mean that does not create any differentiation. And then there of course there's a reach frequency curve as well. Like how much can you spend to reach the same user, and what is the conversion that you get? So I think the way of marketing is going to change. I agree with Sarika. Video is actually going to play a very, very big role. Video consumption in India was always on the rise, since 2015, 16, and thanks to Geo, it's changed the world after that. I think video is going to play, but I also do think that brand recorded videos will be actually taken over by UGC content. I think UGC, as the market matures, you will see UGC also maturing. Currently as market is the biggest problem when you do a UGC campaign, like shit, users are gonna, kind of make the videos. Is it going to be good? So that's always going to be, a question, but I think that's going to change. For example, we're experimenting something. We're actually, next month, we're actually launching a channel on our app where sellers can actually make live shows and sell products, and they can actually distribute the videos on TikTok, not just WhatsApp and Facebook. So we are actually going where people are. We are not waiting, because traditionally how brands marketed was, it was more like a pull marketing, like, hey, I'm a brand giving great discounts, come to me. And that's what everyone does. But when actually users start speaking for a brand to other users, that's where the magic happens. And that's where you get the ROI. So I think that's going to change. A lot of marketing tactics are going to change. You'll see innovative methods coming out. and we're pretty excited about that. We've seen a lot of marketing on WeChat in China, where brands have actually made mini apps on WeChat, and we do see that this is similarly that's going to happen on WhatsApp in India in the next 1 2 years. Catalogs already live on WhatsApp, so people are already selling via WhatsApp. So I think WhatsApp is going to be the WeChat for India. A lot of brands need to build around WhatsApp, not just on conversation, but on transaction and conversion. And you have to remember that people like us, we're only the 4% of the population. The rest of India is not using Zoom and talking to people. They're actually offline. They're actually using videos and TikToks and WhatsApp universities. That's where you need to be. So I think that's what's going to change.
Jasmeet, in last 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
given the experience you've gone through,
Yeah.
what new things are you doing? You talked about video in the next month and a half, 2 months.
Sure.
Is there something else you're doing for a personalization experience on your app? What major tactics apart from video
Sure.
for the sellers? What else would you change?
Sure. So one of
You
the
had
things,
you had probably thought about it as non-important, but now it's become critical.
yes. So probably because what we as you guys know, we get offline sellers to sell online. So today we have about more than 4 lakh stores on the platform, right? But proximity was never our worry, because our concept was let a seller who's sitting in a city like say Bhopal, let him sell to a city like Baroda. That's when he's going to make money, and not selling in Bhopal. But with the COVID situation, what we've done is we've actually moved that to a more hyperlocal kind of a thing. So we are now getting sellers to sell within the same city. And for the same, using our existing seller network, we actually onboarded a lot of grocery players. And they're now selling, so you can discover groceries around your house, around 1 to 3 kilometers. And that hypothesis, you'd be like, oh, groceries, we know where the stores are. But actually, as a behavior, as consumers, we only go to those 1 or 2 grocery stores which we know and we buy from years around the house. There are actually much more than them. So we've increased the discoverability of those stores in local areas. Plus, we're focusing more on the supply side of things. As someone said that B2B is actually going to be a big flavor. We do believe that B2B is going to be one of the biggest growth drivers for us, apart from online to offline to online. And that's because a lot of the supply chains are in bottleneck. And once the market opens, as the demand starts rising, supply chain will also be kind of tested. So that's why what we're doing is also making sure that through the platform we're also giving access to supply, because access is going to be one of the key drivers for people to get more products and to sell. So that's what we've been doing. And third, video commerce with local languages. So what we are also doing is people can actually live bargain on the videos, because that's how India buys. So our platform, unlike any e-commerce platform, where we actually, are very, very different, is we actually let buyers bargain and buy with the sellers. That's how India buys. And you
Okay.
would 95% of the transaction happens after that. So that's how, we've seen India behave.
So thank you, Jasmeet, for that. With that, I hope we have answered some of the questions we've got about how will marketeers increase their investments in media spends, and how will they shift in terms of technology investments, what new marketers are doing on their e-commerce experiences. I have one last question before we take up audiences questions. And this question is coming from our last introduction by Akshay, where he onboarded working from home. So my question to you is, as marketeers, we always relied in proximity, team huddles in the person world, changing things on the fly, creative guy sitting right next to us, and we just nailing him, thinking, hey, this doesn't look good. We've done a lot of things on the fly, even high intensity, coming together, long hours. Uh, when we have gone to a work from home model, I'm sure, many of us would have gone through that. How do I make this work offline, right? I used to work with teams where they sit on with graphic machines, which are desktops in office. Now that graphic designer is not going to have access to that machine, which is video editing machine, etc., etc. So there's logistics challenges. All of us are managing teams, and we traditionally have managed them in the office, or agencies which have come to us for a brief in-person and follow-up Skype calls. But we've never done 100% work from home or 100% remote working. As a marketeer and a business leader, how have you responded to the challenge? Tell us some funny incidents, anecdotes that have happened in the last 4 to 6 weeks in your experience. And we can start perhaps with Abhinav, because Abhinav is the head of sales at Field Fresh. So, you rely on field sales. You rely on people who go out to retailers, to supply. You are in person, and now you're asking your guys to log in and do video transaction with local guys, suppliers, buyers. Tell us your experience. We'll start with Abhinav, Abhishek, Akshay, and then Arpan, Jasmeet, and of course Sarika will have the last word. Yeah.
Right. So Puneet, a very valid question, and the first 2 days of lockdown, that was what was playing up in anybody's mind, that you have a whole infrastructure for a more traditional, selling organization, and you have feet on the street, and suddenly if nobody can move out of the house, how is it going to work? But I think, and when I started, I said we are very flexible and very resilient as a society, as people, and within 2 days, I was so happy with the pace of change that we saw and pace of adaptation that we saw. It took hardly 4 to 5 days for everybody to get very comfortable with technology. From day 3, our sales teams started engaging with distributors and retailers over phone, over WhatsApp. We internally in the organization were logged in because we were work from home. So during the office timings, we are logged into Microsoft Teams, and we are always available. Okay, and if physical retail, the beat working happens and the gate meetings are conducted at
Absolutely.
distributor points with salesmen and all that. Today, right from 9 to 9:30, our gate meetings happen across all teams. So the last mile, that is the feet on street, attends a gate meeting between 9 to 9:30, and the managerial level meetings start from between 9:30 to 10:30, and we are all done for the review of the last day and the objectives for this day. So it's all virtual now. All within 4 to 5 days, we just moved and adopted technology like anything. I can tell you today we are probably more connected within the organization and with the stakeholders than we have ever been. We were never so accessible at any point in time, and connecting frequently throughout the day with such large, because online also enables you to connect with a large population. You can just have a meeting with 30 people around, and without blocking physically blocking anybody's personal space and bringing them to one particular place. People just log in from wherever they are, and you can just have conversations and get the agenda rolling. So I think that adaptability has been very fast. The entire ecosystem, physical retail ecosystem, has also got used to it. So we get orders over phone, over WhatsApp. It is just the delivery mechanism where we need to manage it physically. I'll tell you also another shift that has happened. And I'll agree with Sarika on some of the points that she had said prior to this. We as an organization are more active on social media right now than we were ever were. Our social media activity has suddenly gone up. We are much closer to the consumers who are on social media platforms with us. And we are addressing their queries. We are giving them confidence that we are there with them, for them through this, and our essential supplies will be there with them. We are talking to them. Somewhere this whole activation has gone up. Now, because digital or e-com has taken a larger share of the business, and by design also, it will now remain as a larger contribution of the business. While you were hinting at the marketing cost being cut down, the marketing spends will always be in line with the revenue that you are generating, and if the revenues are what they are, they'll be in proportion to that. But within the marketing spends, the contribution of e-commerce platform spending and social media spending will definitely go up with this entire environment, is what my feel is. Why I'm saying e-commerce platform spending is because obviously ROIs will be in focus. Efficiency is in tremendous focus at this moment in time. We want to optimize, and you will see people probably going to the point of sale category pages, driving conversion, The conversion costs, as you had already mentioned, are low. And for supplies which people are buying, like groceries and packaged food items are supplies that people are buying, one would try to take this opportunity and get maximum amount of conversions happening. So and that will not happen unless you have a relevant communication or you create product relevance for the consumer. So that's a given as to how do you give them reason to buy in this environment right now. So you'll be seeing a lot of food companies basically elaborating on the immunity benefits, the health and wellness benefits of products. But then you have to go to the new points of sale, which are the virtual points of sale, and you have to connect and give reason to buy to the people who are now shopping on at those points of sale, and drive better conversions, and whatever resources that will require, that resources will be reallocated from somewhere else and be brought here, because this is where the revenues are being generated today. So that's how I see this entire thing.
Thank you, Abhinav. This is a huge shift for field sales organizations, which actually you rightly said are on the street and responding back. So this is, I heard from you that you're more connected. Let me now invite Abhishek. Abhishek Shetty, how have you managed this work from home phenomena? Maybe a couple of minutes if you can share with us some funny anecdotes, some bloopers like the one I did just before, where I went completely off air thanks to my industrial strength broadband at home. What are your interesting experiences in the last 4 weeks?
We've had quite a few bloopers, interesting times. People use Zoom and all for obviously calls, and the virtual background feature has been in for a while. So with friends, obviously, you tend to play around with your backgrounds, and sometimes people forget that they've changed the background. They log on to official calls with those backgrounds. So there's been quite a few bloopers. But from a marketing standpoint, interestingly, and I think some of the marketers might agree, I'm happy we are sort of going through this digital sort of, in a certain sense, enforced enablement, right? Because typically whenever historically when marketers have tried to push in some digital initiatives, there's a lot of initial apprehension. And I think after this phase is over, I think a lot of it will be a lot more easier to move within the company. So I think from a company culture standpoint, overall for all of us, I think this is a good thing, because people are getting with technology. Even people who are historically not very comfortable with it are getting very comfortable. So I think productivity, because travel time has gone down, has only gone up. There are obviously challenges here and there, broadband issues, but I think on the larger note, I think it's been good from an internal standpoint. From a consumer standpoint, I think we've also, because we are using technology so much more, I think we've also started looking at it from a consumer lens. Right?
Mm.
It's not about, earlier it was all about push content, push content, push content. I think we had stopped being empathetic towards consumer. So we are trying to, as much as possible, we're trying to say, let's reduce the transactional content right now, because it would be idiotic to do so. We're trying to be as engagement oriented as possible. Just one last example I'll give you also. Yesterday we did a campaign where there was no transaction involved. We just sent a message to all our loyalty base, and we told customers, here's just going down the memory lane on how our relationship started. So
Mm.
consumers, when did they buy the first time from us? Where did they buy from? What did they buy? Which is their favorite category? That's all we did. And the engagement rates that we've got is been higher than any campaign that we've historically done, ever. And that says something. So if you're able to connect to the consumers, I think you'll do a lot better job. And I think this time is sort of helping us there.
I loved your experience of the virtual wallpapers. Thank you very much, Abhishek, for this. Let me invite now Akshay. Akshay, your experience onboarding, getting to meet a team you're going to work with, collaborate with people you never met in person. Tell us more.
Sure, Puneet. So I think no, it is difficult. Um, as much as we are all optimistic. I think there is a. It's difficult to live in a world with only two senses. Two senses, right? I think you need all the five senses to get a holistic picture, and I think that's how brain also functions, right? So I think importantly that as a species we are, we we like to smell, touch, right? And I think face to face, nothing can, I would say compensate face to face, right? You always need to have a face to a name, right? But just picking from what Abhishek is saying, I think a lot of new, uh, I think what this will do, I think fortunately, and this is something which I strongly feel that it will force us to relook at a lot of things that we have taken for granted, right? Business travel, for example, a lot of companies and a lot of organization, and I think personally also people will relook at that, right? I think things that we have taken fairly granted, right? For example, going to a mall, right? Walking down the road, right? Um, that I think going to a job, right? You know, I think a lot of people will come out of this lockdown and say and feel fortunate that they have something to look forward to, right? I think simple things like dressing up for work, it's such a powerful thing, right? It basically sets you up for the day, and I certainly miss that, right? So I don't think I've worn a pair of jeans in last 45 days, and I was telling my wife, maybe we should do it once a while because it feels normal. Maybe we can start feeling. So I think these are interesting times, but certainly there are challenges. I think from a brand side, uh, just again picking on points with Abhishek, I think a lot of this has forced brands to go to internalize, right? Because see, usually what happens as brand owners, marketers, we are in one paradigm, our consumers are in different paradigm, right? So there's nothing that really ties us always 24/7 with one thread, right? And now this lockdown has got everybody in the same situation, right? So what I feel, what are my problems are your problems are everybody. So for example, barber is a problem for every guy, who is on this call, not on this call. People have taken to haircuts, right? I tried to experiment that and then I left it. But my problem is your problem, and I have a small kid at home and who has just realized that she has very fast legs and it's crazy, right? She keeps going everywhere and we don't know what to do, right? So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I think there's a lot of things which are happening in my life are also happening in my customer's life. So hence the content has changed dramatically. I just received an email from I think Mintra today. Is barber your problem, right? Something like that, right? So I didn't go through it, but it's something on to that effect. And I could, and a lot of brands are doing that, right? So Swiggy, a lot of online brands are doing that. Um, how do I see a change? I think just wanted to couple of thoughts to my mind. I think online definitely will grow after this. I think we will uh, maybe we all are proven wrong. But how do I see now? I don't see any large kind of marketing offline events or sporting events that will happen at least for this year, right? And these are very important aspects for brand marketers or even for marketers in for organization, because a lot of money piggy rides on that, right? For example, IPL will not happen, and I don't see any sporting event happening before this year ends, with full stadiums and capacity being filled, right? So entertainment mall certainly will take a lot of time to come back. So people will shop online, right? So I think from a positive standpoint, this is a very interesting time for brands to basically acquire new customers, right? Somebody mentioned about 1mg, right? I think important for medicines, beauty, even groceries, even I would leave food tech space maybe slightly outside it. Say travel will take a hit, food tech will take a hit, but a lot of other essentials and supplies where customers will look to buy from online, especially from tier 3, tier 2, even from tier 1 cities, right? So I think for a lot of brands and a lot of platforms, this is opportunity of growth also. Sure, that growth may come at a slightly scuttled pace. Now, it may not, ultimately, a lot of us will not be able to meet our annual numbers, once the year ends. And all of that will happen. But India versus Bharat, I think Bharat will now learn to buy online. Somebody was I think Jasmeet was mentioning about how they are trying to get their customers, I think sellers put content online. I think a lot of innovative stuff will happen. um, but yeah, there is we also need to be empathetic about a lot of our customers, who are dependent on, a lot of consultants, for example, SMEs, right? A lot of manufacturers, who basically have cash, for next 2 to 3 months, right? A lot of people who are working in sectors which will take a hit: travel, entertainment, sports management, celebrities management, right? And then you can keep thinking about it. So I think that's where we need to be empathetic. Also, realign ourselves to this to this new reality. There's a new normal, and we will basically make mistakes. We will keep on learning, right? So, accidentally, I ended up sharing my screen instead of changing the background. So, I think all those things are normal. And just before that, I had my kid walking in through the door behind me, and I didn't realize I left the, because she knows how to maneuver a handle now, right? So again, this is, and I think this is fairly okay, fairly acceptable. I think personally, I've realized that my bar, when I'm talking to my colleagues on the phone, is fairly low on the tranquility of the whole environment, right? So I'm okay with noise in the background, or okay with somebody shouting, and because what can you do, right? Not everybody can afford spacious house, right? And I stay in Bombay for the last 3 years now. Anyone who has stayed in Bombay would realize that Bombay houses are like, and I've always worked in northern part of India, Delhi, Gurgaon, for at least 7 8 years before I took the stint in Bombay. So the normal house in Bombay is about 600 700 square feet, and in Delhi, people won't be able to calibrate their minds around it, right? So interesting times, but yeah, I think it would be good to I think personally I would love to go back to a world which was where we left it, and maybe once a week kind of a work from home will be okay, but rest 4 days or 5 days actually can be from office. So yeah, I think I look forward.
So thank you, Akshay, for that. Let me invite Arpan. In your team's work from home, I'm more interested in internally, how have you managed this transition? Of course, we've discussed how consumers have changed, how suppliers have changed, but internally, what are your nice anecdotes or fun experiences of
Sure,
challenges?
I'll try keeping it short. I think most of the points have been already covered.
Sure.
One of the things which we do is obviously we resort to task lists and giving a certain date to it by when we plan to finish the work, with the point of contact, getting reviews done, having a chat with the top management every alternate days, just to see we all align in this process, because we have started a new division as well. I think this event is a great enabler for everyone. I'm sorry, it's a great leveler for everyone. The reason being, we all can start from scratch. We talk about ownership, we talk about taking responsibility, we talk about working without guidance, right? And this event will promote guys who can do that, who can work in silos, who can work without being seen or guided, or who can take ownership. And we also have we have started a program where we incentivize people who are standing up to this, who are taking ownerships, who are adapting as much as possible in the entire in this duration. And I think that is going to be a great way of keeping a team which can help us sail through a crisis period. I think that's
Thank you, Arpan. Let me invite Jasmeet. You are a young company, young team. You must be all used to working from home, remote working. Has something changed for you also in the last 6 weeks?
To be honest, this is the first for us. I mean, we've never worked from home before.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a first for us because so we have an offline team as well, which actually goes to markets, onboard sellers, and so that's the sales part of the team as well. So we are seeing like both the worlds in our day-to-day business. So for the offline team, it's been very difficult to kind of get them to work from home and reach out to sellers and stuff, because they are not used to that kind of a thing, and it's difficult. While for the other teams, like the tech teams, the marketing teams, the BD teams, they've been super efficient in coming to this, and being the part, like being a young organization, they used to using tools. So we already build a lot of tools internally for for tracking tasks, even for internal communications and stuff. So I think it wasn't hard for us to kind of move to virtual walking, but I would definitely say it opened up a few of channels that we probably missed before that we could have leveraged better. Because when you're pushed in the corner, you figure out your way to get out of it, right? So that's what we've been figuring out, and I think in the future we might use this as a practice for sure. I mean, I think it's probably cool. Yeah, it's good.
Thank you, Jasmeet. One personal experience for me has been last 4-6 weeks is that I'm used to dial in conference calls, audio calls, so that part I was totally comfortable with. But now in the last 6 weeks, because we cannot not meet in person, everybody wants to have video on. I'm not a video person. I mean, I'm in person conferences, moderating a panel session, or being on a conference call, but that video has changed me completely. I've had to make readjust my living apartment room light and all that stuff. So that's been a personal journey. I'm still learning on how to be effective as a moderator speaker online. Huge challenge. But everybody now insists because of the Zoom phenomena that you should be on video. So I request you to be on video. Let me invite Sarika. Sarika is a agency partner consultant.
Puneet,
Yep.
just a reminder, we are
Yes.
15 minutes to the closing of the session, and we have
Yep.
a few questions there.
Thank you so much.
From our
Allow me a minute.
delegates.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Allow me a
sure.
minute, and I'll
Yeah,
take those. There are
yeah.
4 questions. Are you getting more FaceTime on video with your customers, clients, prospects, agencies, brands? Sarika?
Yes, actually, it's not been such a drastic shift for us because we do work with some of our clients who we work with remotely and virtually anyway. My team is used to working remotely, but even with that, it would be for a part of the day or part of the week, and to go full scale, full time, be online has even required us, when we were fairly comfortable working virtually, to get used to. It took 3-4 days to kind of get used to and settle into a routine and decide our touch base calls in the morning. The other thing that we were using this earlier and we continue to use it, which has again been seamless for us and effective, is that we use productivity tools. Like we've been using Trello before, we continue to use Trello, and that has helped us, and with our clients. So some of our clients are on some of these tools with us, so that's helped kind of not disrupt in a very, very big way, and we've managed to align. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarika. With that, let me request you guys to pop your questions. If you can see this, there are questions. No, you can't see this. I had something which said your questions. So your audience questions. We have 5 questions queued up, and we have questions from folks who have named themselves, and we also have anonymous question for online brand marketing. What social marketing site would you say will increase in coming days? Google Ads or social media like Facebook, Insta. We've discussed this in pretty level of detail in terms of Sarika talking about cost of acquisition, CPM rates going up, and online spend becoming more expensive. We saw how Jasmeet has talked about UGC being very important in the coming days. So perhaps we can move on from this question unless you are seeing this live, and if you have a follow-up question, we can take that. I think we've covered this in fair amount of detail in the last 90 minutes. Murali Mohan K has a question. So, how to plan to service rural and semi-urban market through e-com? Please share more on that. And there's a follow-up question saying, so, would you feel that online digital funding will help increase purchasing power? I'll probably take the first one and request Abhinav to perhaps, will this change completely how we service the rural and semi-urban market through e-commerce? What is your take, Abhinav, on this one? Murali's question is, so how to plan to service rural and semi-urban market through e-commerce? Are you seeing some, from a supply perspective? And then perhaps we can also request any one of the
Right.
other speakers to also share. Maybe Abhishek can talk about rural and semi-urban market.
So
Or even
there are a
Yep.
couple of couple of things that I'll say. You see, this entire phenomena of lockdown has, if I could just broadly say, hit the larger towns harder than the smaller towns. Okay, and this entire social distancing, the way social distancing is being practiced in the larger towns, and the way the whole administration is also trying to monitor situation in the larger town, is a bit more relaxed in the smaller towns, is what I would say. The population is smaller. I mean, they have more space. It's not so congested. So all those phenomena are playing out. Okay. what I see is the way physical retail and markets will get impacted in the larger towns. The smaller towns may not see impact to that extent. They'll be able to bounce back probably faster through this. Okay. Secondly, in smaller towns, the distances are not very large for people to travel. Uh, and the relationship with your nearby retailers are also pretty different. If you go into the rural areas, I mean, it's more of a personal relationship than and an ongoing long-term relationship than a transactional relationship. So those phenomena will play out their part. Second thing, as far as e-commerce is concerned, see, the reach of e-commerce is today very wide, and some of these the top platforms in the country claim to have delivery capability to 90% plus of India's pin codes, and that includes the smaller towns as well. In fact, I can tell you that we still, and I was talking about infrastructure some time back. Now people like Amazon have poured money like anything into creating infrastructure for a country like India. It's not possible for every player, but players who have deep pockets, they have done that, and they are doing that, or they were doing that before this thing hit us. Okay, now that infrastructure still requires a lot of fine tuning. But as that infrastructure gets fine tuned better, I can tell you traditional servicing models probably may not have still gone to those places where e-commerce delivery will reach, because their hub and spoke models are there in the most interior parts of the country. Also, there are some models with tie up with post offices which are being played out, and any existing brand. Probably the largest of existing brands also would not have that kind of access as some of these tie-ups will, and infrastructure expansion can just gain, because at the end of it, letters do reach where physical goods still don't reach, and those kind of accessibility is possible with e-commerce. So with some fine tuning of those infrastructure, reach will be there. Third, and my last point, as I talked about B2B e-commerce earlier, probably it will still be a lot more effective in tier 2 and tier 3. It will be effective in metros also, because metros also have their own tier 2 towns inside the metros. You have all kinds of socio-economic clusters inside the metros. But when it comes to the tier 2 and tier 3 towns, probably some of these B2B players will play an active role in going and connecting to the small retailers and servicing them in a manner which is much richer and probably more productive for that small retailer than brands have done over a period of time. And that's why you'll see some of these B2B players, as a focus, they have taken India B and India C tier 2 and tier 3 towns to expand. So these are the mechanisms through which these towns will get catered, is what my sense is.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. I'll move to the next question because I think we've got a couple of questions. We have a few minutes. I'd like to see if we can address at least one panelist response to each of these questions. So Varghese has a question which I would like to perhaps ask Jasmeet to respond. And he says, congratulations on this great event. Couple of questions. How do you see consumer behavior changing once the lockdown is over? The local kirana is more accessible. D-marts and Big Bazaar open up for in-person sales. But this question is important, and that's where Jasmeet, you can probably chime in. How do you see the smaller brands surviving as the consumers will surely go with reliable and known vendors? Do you see consolidation? Perhaps you can give us some response on this one.
I think, with respect to the organized and the unorganized, kind of brands, I think the organized brands are also present in big cities and bigger towns. Whereas, the unorganized brands are more prevalent in smaller towns and smaller cities. So you will see a rise of both of them. It's not going to be only big brands, but you will see big brands tie up with smaller brands to increase distribution and increase presence. For example, DMarts of the world are present in Bombay and South, West. But when you go to South, you see Sarvana Bhavan, which I never saw in Mumbai or New Delhi. So similarly, there are very, very different local players with expertise in local distribution. It's a win-win situation for all. In fact, many of them will actually cross pollinate and collaborate, as we've already seen e-commerce players, who are also selling essential before actually add on more players which are kind of competitors to them. So that will also happen, and I think that's the flavor until things get streamlined. So it's not going to be any one's game. India is such a big country. It's a win-win situation for everyone actually.
Thank you so much, Jasmeet. We have a question. It says, if you look into broader aspect, it's anonymous attendee.
Yeah.
Due to this turmoil, every penny spent is looked short-term ROI is becoming more important. We have lots of available tech solutions which help to manage profitability and performance of the firm by mapping your spend with revenue. So, how much these tech solutions play a role in the growth? I'm not sure about the question. Perhaps this is about how technology is playing a role in aligning sales and marketing. We've discussed this in some detail. Perhaps we can move to the next question, which is by Akshay Chopra. Do you think marketing and positioning healthy snacking? I love this question. Snacking brand which is homemade, safe, and keeping hygiene in mind would work in near future. Let me see if I can get this answer live. Okay, let me invite. Let me see who I can invite here. Arpan, you worked in Britannia. Your experience earlier. What do you think of this question? Do you think marketing and
Can you just
positioning a
repeat the
healthy?
question once more?
Do you think marketing and positioning a healthy snacking brand, which is homemade, safe, and keeping hygiene in mind, would work in the near future?
It absolutely will. See, hygiene and staying fit are different things. Hygiene is important for all food items, and staying fit just is another subset altogether, another category altogether, right? I think hygiene is important for any food category, be it the Swiggies or the dine outs, the kind of no contact dining they're promoting. That's a different category altogether. Otherwise, there has been a surge in the sales and overall demand for fitness or healthy foods. So that's a different. I don't see the connection between both the things right now.
So the answer is yes. Great. Let's move on. How do you see the future of street shopping business post COVID
I
19?
will have to butt in,
Sure.
folks.
Yes.
Yeah, we are running out of time. I think probably this will be the last question, and then we have to wrap up, unfortunately, because we are running out of time. Yeah.
Sure. Let's wrap up in that case. I would like to thank each one of you for your insights into a topic which was about how retail marketing would shift, and in the context of MarTech and automation and digital media, how would we see changes? So I would like to thank Abhishek Shetty, Abhinav Dipankar, Akshay Ambardar, Arpan Biswas, Jasmeet Hind, and Sarika Grover for being on this panel for the last 2 hours and sharing with us your deep insights into specific questions we asked. I sensed overall a sense of cautious optimism. I heard that it's double digit growth for categories which were in demand in the last 4 weeks on e commerce. I heard that there's a lot of flexibility and agility you guys are building into your marketing plans as you go forward. So there was a lot of interesting things I could not. I'm not sure if I can capture in a minute or two. But I sense that work from home is now the new reality for all of us. Some of us have embraced this relatively more easier. I was surprised to find that for a purely digital brand like Hoot Loot, Jasmeet's team has still been pretty much in the office meeting, and now they are moving on to remote working. So, interesting insights in the last hour and a half, 2 hours. If you're catching this video on the last part on YouTube or archives, I would recommend you to rewind and go back and start from scratch. But I've absolutely enjoyed being here. Thank you very much for being part of this Let's Talk Retail series. We'll be back tomorrow with technology as the main focus. And I'd like to thank CASA, Retail AI, and of course, Green Honchos to make this happen. And thank you very much, my co-moderator Anurama Das, and thank you, Bhavesh, for this opportunity. It's been wonderful being here. And let's continue the conversation on Internet Commerce Summit's page on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and also other social media, where if you have any follow-up questions once you've seen this, you can respond with the question, and we'll try to see if we can respond to those questions a little later. We're not being live, but we'll try to address those issues as well. I wish you a safe and steady future post COVID-19, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you all the panelists. It was lovely. Thank you, delegates. You can take your questions up with the panelists offline. Sorry we couldn't answer all. Time is of like importance here. Thanks again. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
it
you
was
very much.
lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.